Hello, I'm Bill Carmody. My guest today is Christian Robinson. Christian Robinson is a 2016 Caldecott Honoree and also received the Coretta Scott King Illustrator Honor for his art in The Last Stop on Market Street by Matt de la Peña. De la Peña himself took home the 2016 Newbery Medal, awarded with the Association of Library Service to Children for the most distinguished book for children. Leo, A Ghost Story was 2015 New York Times Best Illustrated Children's Book of the Year, which Robinson illustrated. And his Josephine, The Dazzling Life of Josephine Baker, was also illustrated by Christian Robinson, and it was, among many other awards, won the the Wall Street Journal's 10 Best Children's Book of the Year. Based in Sacramento, California, he's an animator and has worked with the Sesame Street Workshop and Pixar Animation Studios. Christian, welcome today.
Hi, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. That's
Excellent.
a long list.
It is. You're very accomplished. It's amazing. Congratulations.
I like to stay busy, but yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So today we're going to be talking about Coloring Without Borders, a coloring and activity book produced to raise funds for families belonging together, helping them reunite families that were separated in the U.S. Mexican border. More than 80 professional artists from around the world came together to create this book with the hopes of reuniting families while sparking conversations about kindness and inclusiveness. It's a gift that gives back. It's a new way of bringing conversation about family separation to a wider audience. So thank you for being here today and for speaking about this project.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, before we begin, I actually have a copy of this book, but I didn't bring it with me. Do you have it in front of you?
I do, yeah.
Will you pull that up? Because I apologize. I meant to bring that.
Here it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What I love about this book is the fact that it has a combination of allowing children to fill in the pictures. So I love all of the specific components where you have a recommended, add this, add that. It's both in English on one page and Spanish on another. And it's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was really excited to be a part of this. And I also love that it's bilingual. Yeah.
Very cool. Do you want to show a page or two of something that you were particularly proud of, or things like one of the storylines that you thought was kind of fun, whether it was yours or one of the other artists?
I mean, I will show the illustration that I worked on.
Sure.
Yeah. There that is right there. It's basically a bird flying from their cage. And the caption is to draw all the birds flying out of the cage. And so I really just wanted to have that opportunity to allow these children just to imagine all these colorful birds just escaping. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what I love about that is then the child gets to be part of the art and the artistry, and they get to not just color things in, but also to create with their imagination all the ways to complete that picture. And there's lots of ways to do that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the idea here of how this became a project in terms of fundraising, in terms of being able to support the children that have been separated from their families at the U.S. Mexican border. Like, how did this come to be?
Yeah. So the creator of this project, Jennifer Sophia Hall, I know she was inspired by, what she was seeing. I think it was the peak of the border crisis where we're hearing about children being separated from their families. And she was wondering what she could do to be a part of it. So she decided to basically channel what she knew best, which was using art as a way to help families. And so she reached out to artists from all over the world. I believe that there are about 80 artists and illustrators who contributed to this book. And she said she was overwhelmed by the response. Everyone, and of course, including myself, wanted to be a part of this. And yeah, and basically 100% of the proceeds of this book go directly to Families Belong Together, which is an organization that works to help these families that have been separated and helps them get reunited, as well as work through legal issues. Yeah.
That's amazing. And what I love it is you're sort of, you have this concept of bringing families together at the same time you're supporting the families who've been separated. And what I mean by that is the project itself allows families to play with this book, to color in, to create pictures, to create art, and have conversations about inclusiveness, understanding the dynamics of cultural dynamics between multi-language, multi-family, and also the cross-border challenges that children right now are facing in terms of immigration. So is there anything particular that spoke to you or called out for you relative to this whole crisis that's going on and the things that you're doing to help support getting families back together?
I mean, I think similar to Jennifer, I also was just reading and looking at the news and feeling overwhelmed and not really sure what I could do, feeling for sure that our country could be doing better to help support these families and children who are, seeking freedom and peace and all the basic, things that people want to be happy. And yeah, I was also moved by the fact that, this is a way to get the whole family involved and engaged, because children are aware of what's going on in the world, even though we might not want them to always hear the grown-up conversations.
Yes.
They hear it, they're hearing it at school, they're hearing it on the news, they're hearing it walking, or they're seeing it walking by a newspaper stand, if those still exist. I don't know. And so this is a way to include them in the conversation. And yeah, I think, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And tell me, you've had this amazing career of doing multiple children's books. I went onto your website before this interview and I saw that there was like almost 9-10 different books that you've at least illustrated, something like that.
Yeah. I love what I get to do, which is tell stories through pictures as an illustrator. Yeah.
And you also worked with Sesame Street and Pixar. Tell me about sort of what have you done for Sesame Street?
This was a while ago, but yeah, one of my earliest jobs was just kind of creating educational animated shorts for Sesame Street, which was my dream, because I grew up on Sesame Street and I loved, it was my happy place. It was definitely my therapy as a child, right? It created a safe space to see a world that I wanted to, be a part of. And yeah.
I also grew up with Sesame Street, and one of the things that I loved so much about it was how they were able to make information and education fun, interesting, and approachable for everyone. And one of the things I loved about that was I always felt like it was a fun time, but I always felt like I learned something. And so it's so beautiful that you were able to not just experience that as a youth, but also to be able to step into something like this as part of your profession. So amazing job. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And then Pixar, how did that come to be? What are some of the things you've done for Pixar?
So Pixar was sort of it was more of an internship / job. But yeah, while I was there, I worked in their consumer products department. I worked around the same time that they were producing the film Up. And basically almost that job at Pixar was my introduction into illustrating books for children, because the first job I ever got was having the chance to illustrate a book based on that movie Up while I was there. So yeah.
That's amazing work. And I know a lot of people who are in this profession are looking at sort of, how do I get into something like this? People who are look up to you and see all of the amazing books you've done, all of the illustrations you've accomplished, and all the awards you've won along the way. I mean, it's just amazing how many awards you've really walked away with in just such a short period of time with all the books you've already accomplished. So amazing. If you're speaking into someone who's interested in getting involved in this profession, what are some things you might tell them in terms of what to do or how to get started in something like this?
So I get to travel a lot to schools and libraries and book festivals all over. And I do get this question a lot from young artists or people just, interested in getting involved in this world. And I always say, have fun with it. Do what brings you joy. Make things that make you happy and that you love making. Okay, I'm getting off track, but basically also school helps, right? I studied animation, actually 4 years of college, I studied animation at a school called CalArts, which was founded by Walt Disney. So that definitely helped me get into that world of visual storytelling. But really, I think what's helped me throughout everything is just doing what I love and just believing yeah. Sorry, I'm off track.
No, you're not track. By the way, you're not off track at all. This is exactly what we're talking about. Because really, why I want to ask about the profession piece is you've used your talent as a means to really make the world better, and you've done it in a number of different ways. You didn't just do this here. Like there was a children's book that you illustrated about the dead bird. And I was just fascinated by that because, most times, you see children's books and they tend to be soft and fluffy and, they're all about sort of happy, happy, joy, joy. But that's not very real in the context. There's a lot of children who have more challenging, difficult childhoods, or they want to talk about death and they don't know how to do it. And you've given them some outlets to do that. So what I'm asking about your profession, because you've used your powers for good. And one of the things that I love about what you've done is you've really taken sometimes difficult subjects and you create these beautiful illustrations that help sort of bring imaginations to life and really make real something that was imagined in some other author's head. Someone who's writing some content, you've really brought it together. You've taken their vision and make it really simple so that a child can really understand complex ideas. And I know that you've done that also in this book as well. So it's like, I'm curious about your willingness to sort of step into almost courageous conversations and talking about topics of inclusiveness in the context of children's books and illustrations that allow complex ideas to be really well thought out and illustrated. I think you do an amazing job, which is why I'm asking these questions. Very much on topic.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think we forget that sometimes that being a child can be scary because there's so much that is not in your control. You're at the mercy of the world and those taking care of you. And yeah, there's so much you don't know yet. And there's so many things, you have to be prepared for. And so I love that art can be this bridge, this understanding, this space to have conversations and to make one feel safe and welcomed and invited. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think you do an amazing job with that. So bringing this full circle back to this effort. So we're looking at how to create a conversation about, the U.S. Mexico border, children who've been separated from their families, and not just raising awareness, but actually having a book that helps those conversations happen inside of families. So tell me about any of the things like the vision here or the opportunity as families buy this book and they bring it home and they use it with their children. How can they have some of these conversations to talk about what's really going on and really help their children understand what this means and how to make this world better in some meaningful way by not just hiding behind this and saying, oh, it's not happening to us, so it doesn't matter, but to really sort of figure out what they can do or how they can support changing some of the things that are happening right now today.
Yeah. I mean, well, the beautiful thing is, that in just supporting this book, you are helping those families and children who are being separated and detained. Sorry, I'm spacing. But
no, you're fine.
I'll say this also that okay, so the question basically is how can this book open up that conversation even more?
Yeah, exactly. How can we take a book like this and use it as a conversation topic about things like inclusiveness or talking about some of the challenges that some families face at the border and how we can do something and make a difference? So the first step is buying the book provides funds for families who have been separated and helping to bring them back together. But there's also this larger conversational arc that I see as the opportunity for families to take this book and really look at it and see it as an opportunity to have some conversations about what's going on that maybe we want to change as a society, as a culture, and as other families who get involved who may not be directly impacted, but also want to see this change happen.
Right. Yeah, that's true, and it's a great conversation starter. Um, I think about how I would have really benefited from a book like this as a child. Um, of course, I can only imagine the circumstances that these families and children are going through. But as a child, um, I was raised by my grandmother, and I know what it's like to be separated from a parent or your family or a loved one. My mother actually struggled with drug addiction and was in and out of prison for most of my childhood. And creativity was totally my way of sort of coping with the world around me and having some say over the world. So creativity was always a thing that helped me see beyond my circumstances. And I love that this book can be uh, that sort of space for so many children. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Christian, thank you so much for sharing that. As I hear you speak those words, it sort of reminds me that, you know, there's such a diversity of experience, especially as children. And oftentimes we look at this and assume that everyone's having the similar experiences that we have, because that's our myopic view on how the world is. And meanwhile, having something like this that allows children to just express themselves in a variety of different means was so beautiful. I mean, what really spoke to me in this book was the ability to sort of go through and see a variety of different circumstances that children can then fill in. So whether that's the one that you showed in terms of the birds escaping from a cage and all the colors and all the birds and all those beautiful things and those images, to, like, you know, a skate park, having kids jump on a skateboard and then go back and forth and like draw the kids and draw the kids skating. There's such a diversity of scenes that children then can get to fill in the blanks based on their own imaginations and their own experiences. So
Yeah.
I really love that about this book. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Yes. And also thinking more about your question, I love how creativity it does force one to think about the world they want to see and how they would change or what they would do differently. And I imagine children who are having this conversation with their parents are wondering, why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening. Kids shouldn't be separated from their families. What can we do to change that? And I think this is a beginning of that conversation and thinking about that, how you can have an impact on the world, even as a child.
And the creativity to actually make it so, right? To be able to take these images and fill them in and sort of have that piece of it. So there's the creativity side, which allows the child to express what their emotions are, what they're going through. And then there's the family dynamic of having those really powerful conversations, even in an early age, to talk about, well, what can we do as a family to make this change? How do we stop this from happening? What can we do about it? And just having those conversations in the family allow the children to also realize that it's not something we just have to sit idly by and watch happen, but we can actually take action. There are things we can do. And just having that discussion shows things like empowerment and
Mm-hmm.
allows children to feel like I can make a difference here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
It's cool. Well, Christian, I want to thank you for the time you've given me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about this. You're doing some really amazing work, and it is truly an honor and a privilege to speak with you and to really see what you're up to. So thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate this conversation and for highlighting this book. Yeah.
Yes, actually, to end, where can they buy this book?
That's a good question.
I know it's on Amazon. Is that the preferred method?
It's on Amazon. I know that if you go directly on the website for Coloring Without Borders,
Okay.
There is actually a list of places you can purchase the book. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. So Coloring Without Borders, fantastic book, 80 different artists illustrating amazing imagery, bilingual English and Spanish, the ability for children to fill in the blanks and make it their own. It's a great storyline. It's a great environment book, and it's a great opportunity to connect a lot of what's going on today. So Christian, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.